Welcome everyone to my podcast, Beat Teacher Burnout. And whether you're a teacher, a leader, and you have another role in school, or you're completely out of school and yet you're finding benefits from the podcast, I'm so glad you joined us, because today I have Jeremiah, and he has such a wealth of knowledge and experience and such incredible wisdom in this area. I've been following him on LinkedIn for a long time now, and I love what he shares. And he's agreed to come on to share a few of his key tips for managing overwhelm and burnout. So, Jeremiah, welcome.
Thank you, Rowena, for the opportunity.
Oh, well, it's great to have you here. And I really look forward to seeing what's going to come out from this conversation today. Do you want to tell listeners a little bit about you to start us off?
Yeah, for sure. For me, my name is Jeremiah Teo. I'm more well known as the Charissma business coach, and expertise is helping entrepreneurs and high-performing individuals finding the personal rhythms of high performance and growing in leadership communication. And been in the gig for about 14 years, since 2010 January. Moved around different places, Singapore, where I was born and raised up in, and moving to Sydney for 5 years. Now happily married to a Hong Kong lady and living in Hong Kong for the past 2 years, building my career and business here.
Oh, amazing. Well, brilliant. Why don't we just launch straight in? And the question I have is, what would be one or two top tips that you have? Let's start with the first top tip that you would have for my listeners.
Sure. When we chatted about burnout before the podcast, I was actually having conversation with a friend as well. Me and the friend is having crazy schedule as a journalist. As you know, in journalism industry, it can be high pace, highly demanded work, KPIs, and time management, energy management is very difficult. Easier said than to be done. But while having the conversation, we were chatting about the challenges, and at the end of the conversation, he felt that he really began to feel better. More so, the key word is he was becoming more self-aware of what are the triggers of his draining, let's say energy drainage, or feeling like whatever I'm doing, I'm losing the passion, I'm losing excitement of life. And for him, he shared with me that probably is the lack of time for music, because for him, music or the time to play songs are the areas of refreshment and rejuvenation. But as you have heard from what I shared, right, he's so busy with work, little time, countable minutes a week to get back in touch with music. That was really hard on him with his lifestyle. So I would say the first tip is we need to choose to be self-aware. We need to be exploring to know ourselves better. And why is that so? Because when we get to know ourselves, the areas of struggles, at least we know how to solve it or find the areas of rejuvenation, like my friend's example, right? So tired, but just 5 minutes to play the keyboard or the piano, it makes big difference in his energy management.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because in my book, I give a statistic of how many of us think we're self-aware. And I don't know what you would think that would be, Jeremiah. How many of us do you think are self-aware?
I haven't really looked into the exact statistics, but I'm guessing maybe 35% out of working adults. I'm not too sure, actually.
One piece of research says about 85% of us think we're self-aware. And in fact, about 15% of us actually are self-aware. And it would be really helpful for the listeners if you could explain, in view of the fact that probably I thought I was self-aware and I'm actually not as self-aware as I thought I was. What do you think it means to be self-aware?
I think just being honest about where I'm struggling. Let's say in terms of energy management, there are 7 different types. And there's a physical rest, creative rest, social rest, mental rest, emotional rest, spiritual rest, and sensory. So 7 areas. And there's no right and wrong, which is the best to start with because everyone is different, right? Everyone is made of different personalities, different energy intake and output. It is a matter of knowing where is the energy area that we need to focus on. Like, for example, I like to quote Tony Robbins. I think most of us know him. Famously, he said, right, to change the mood, we need to allow the motion to come into action. And what does it mean? It means that motion changes the emotions. So, for example, if I'm feeling emotionally tired, maybe the way to go about, go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, sweat it out. And the biological changes will lead to the neurochemicals differences. And from more tired, negative to more optimistic feelings about ourselves. So that can be one area, not just knowing right where we're struggling, but willing to take action, willingness to try and do something to become better in our energy management, in feeling and accepting that, hey, I am feeling this way. It's okay. Let me do something to help myself and feel better.
I love that. I think I remember the time that my eldest son, who's now 30, he said to me when I came back from work, it was about 7, 8 p.m. and I was shattered. And he said, Mum, you need to go to the gym. And I said to him, you've got to be kidding me. I'm exhausted. But he was quite persuasive. So off I went and I came back and I was energized, and it does work. But what advice would you be giving to teachers or leaders who have small children? They can't leave the house. They can't go and do that. And one of the things I teach is small steps. So do you have examples of small things people can do to change that mindset and that awareness of how we are?
Yes, for sure. I think with families or parents having kids, high-performing individuals who have commitments, definitely way tougher. But nonetheless, there's still pockets of changes where we can see tremendous results. So two situations. Number one is, which is easier, let's say there's a healthy environment, maybe let me change the word, healthy community that you're involved in. The first step is think about who can I ask for help, with my parenting schedule. And among healthy married couples, it is important for a date night. And even though I'm not yet a dad, but my wife and I trying to practice a weekly date, maybe a Thursday night or a Saturday morning, at least a time for us to connect with each other, to be intimate in emotions, in trust. I think that 3 hours or 2 hours a week makes big changes.
Yeah.
But assuming you have a community that can say, let me take care of the kids and go for a date night, I think that would be wonderful and helpful. So that's number one, assuming you have community. But if you don't have a community, if it's just two of you, I would say the tougher yet important conversation is to be candid with your partner and to leverage your strength. For example, right, to me, I'm a big believer that we don't have to do the same things together. What do I mean by that? Let's say with cooking, right? My wife is great at cooking wonderful dishes. And I realize it's not my forte. But what can I do to complement is to be an excellent dishwasher.
Okay.
Or might be a sous chef, right? Preparing the ingredients, wash up the plates, and tidy up the stuff. But that's the thing. There's a conception that a healthy couple have to do everything together. But realistically, it is difficult, especially when you have kids. Now, case in point, let's say we have children. Maybe let's not say me, because I don't have children yet. Maybe have another example. I have a couple of friends married in church, and they share the same sentiments that sometimes when during dinner time, one of them will focus on kids, one of them will focus on dinner preparation.
Right.
Everyone has a different role to play, but once we work out as a team and help out each other, I think there's more time to make small changes maybe go for a walk 10 minutes, meditation for 5 minutes, deep breath for a few minutes. Small changes, like I said, tremendous results.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So it doesn't need to be big stuff that seems unachievable and unattainable. It can be small steps to start with, can't it? Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's great. A great start. And what about another top tip you would recommend?
I would say just being candid and to give yourself the permission to accept the fact that it's okay not to be okay. I know it sounds simple, easier said than done, but when we truly accept that some days are bad, and it's okay because we don't have influence over the events, the weather. Say 2 weeks ago, we had a typhoon update in Hong Kong. And when typhoon is serious, we can't go for holidays, we can't go for exercising, and we are stuck at home, out of our control, out of our influence. And it's okay to feel like lousy because some of us, we like to go out for hiking. But if you realize that's the case, then that's all right. Accept that my feelings are like this. I don't have to be perfect. If I'm tired, I'm tired. If I'm feeling melancholy, that's okay. At least you realize it, you're self-aware, and now you can make some changes. But acceptance, or rather the permission to feel it's okay not to be okay, I would say is very important as well.
Okay. And so if you're totally energy drained and you say, okay, that's me now. And, I'm back home from a 12-hour day in school. It's been intense. It's been fast. It's been, I have compassion fatigue. What would be your suggestions?
Okay. I think going back to the 7 areas of energy management, we have to know what area that will energize us individually.
Okay.
Say for me, if I'm really drained, all I want is a happy meal.
Okay.
And I'm not referring to McDonald's. I'm referring to food that makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
Simple, delicious Japanese food often are the recipe of joy in that moment. I feel great. I can have the sashimi. I feel great to have seafood or ice cream and just to indulge a bit to get energized. So that's one. Another one for me, let's say, if you're someone like me, introvert, INFJ personality based on MBTI, right? Another conversation for another time. But let's say we have the same personality. Maybe it's just me time. Maybe a 1 hour me time in a cafe downstairs. Have a sip of your iced coffee. Think about what happened, reflection, writing down your thoughts and feelings. That really helps me in my personality or my kind of people. But let's say for my wife, who's extrovert, she would go for a swim. And swim helps her to feel better after a terrible day.
I love that, because one of the things that I teach on is finding what brings you energy. And it as you say, it doesn't need to be a big thing. It could be just cooking a delicious meal rather than having a takeaway or a sandwich, or it can just be really small things. And I think that's a really important message to be saying to people, that again, it comes back to smaller, don't expect huge change for yourself. Just become aware of what brings you energy. And another thing that I read on your posts was talking about the comparison trap. Would you like to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. Often comparison shows the lack in us. I think in these days with social media, there are trends of comparison, unhealthy trends that came up, say the trend of I'm not good looking enough, citing the increased plastic surgeries, plastic surgeries in South Korea or in China. There's a rise in plastic surgeries because more and more Generation Z individuals are finding that I'm not good looking enough. Therefore, I can't get a good job opportunity or a good relationship. And all this, most of the time, can be triggered by comparison with the perfect lifestyle, so-called perfect image of the social media influencers. And of course, we know the game of social media. We try to place the best things online to impress.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays there's a different trend as well on social media about vulnerability, about honesty, about authenticity, which is great. And yet the major trend online is to look good, be good, speak well, be impressive, have a car, have money, and etc. Sad to say, is still the attention trap. So coming back, I would say comparison trap happens when you compare with someone else and see the lack in you. And of course, critical thinker will say, what about the other way? What if I compare someone who seems to be lousier than me? That can create a false confidence in you. So either way is not great unless you have a learning attitude. You want to learn from someone better from you and to see what they have, not trying to be them, but truly be yourself by improving the skills that they have and you have not achieved. Case in point, maybe public speaking. Maybe someone else is really good in public speeches, but you are not there yet. And that's fine to learn from those leaders, influencers, how to become better public speakers. So all in all, I'll say comparison trap is real, but with the right attitude of learning and wanting to have a growth mindset, accepting that you're enough, I think it can be an opportunity for exponential personal growth.
Okay, so I'm going to pick you up on something that you just said, because I absolutely agree with that. You said accepting that you're enough. What about all the teachers I speak to and the leaders who say I'm not enough? I'm not good enough. I don't have enough energy. There's so much I don't know. And I keep getting told that I need to improve things and change things. And I'm just not enough. I'm not good enough.
And then my question to the teachers is, what do you mean not enough in what? For what? Right? Is it for monetary success? Is it for the grades? Is it for status recognition? I think when we identify the four whats, then we have the accurate elements of comprehension if I am enough or not. And truth be told, with my students while teaching them about advanced business communication, there's some part they have not done enough when it comes to persuasion, when it comes to persuasive message. If it's about for better persuasion, of course, the lack of performance is hindering them to become better business communicators. And that is all right because we want to grow as well. However, if someone is saying you're not good enough because of your self-worth as a person, sometimes race can come into question, sometimes religion can come into question. And of course, with that, then it is going to be rather toxic because it's not focused on objective growth, it's focused on subjective flaws, subjective discrimination. And that will be dangerous when it comes to harmonious collaboration with people and personal growth. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, you're coming back to that comparison trap. And also, you mention a lot about growth. And I think for a lot of school staff who I speak to, they're saying, I'm not good enough. And we say, well, what is one thing that you could learn this week that would help you feel a bit more confident in that area that you're not feeling confident in, and therefore you don't feel good enough? But I think it is a culture in schools at the moment where there is a lot of change all the time, and you're always constantly being asked to implement a new system of some sort. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add on about school, about comparison trap in school. And definitely, let's say in Singapore, in the past, there's always a ranking comparison. So sad to say, in my time as a kid, 20 years ago in primary school, teachers would say, your rank, you're maybe 35th out of 42. And that's not great for the child's healthy growth. It's not to train the children not to be able to take criticism. But in that sense, we are trying to cultivate a sense of not enough because, you're 35. You're 35th, pardon me. You're not second. even second can be not enough, even compared to the first.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. But I would say nowadays there's a shift, at least in Singapore's education, or rather, let's not talk about nation, but just objective, healthier education policy, that when teachers are looking at the student's progress on his or her own self-comparison, I think that will be more accurate or healthier for better growth of esteem. That, hey, you can be better based on what happened to you 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing you with the other student. You are your own person. I'm looking at what you can be better. I'm looking at the potential that you can be when it comes to your own educational growth. I think that is important to mention.
Yeah, absolute magic, because we do that with children, and we look at where they were last term and what progress they've made, and looking at the progress measures. And actually, as adults, we need to be doing the same for ourselves, and that's where the growth comes in, doesn't it? Because we need to say, well, actually, last term or last week I was struggling with this, but I've learnt to do this better, and therefore when I'm comparing myself, I'm growing, and that has a positive outlook, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jeremiah, I'm so grateful to you for all your wisdom. Is there some way, if people want to learn more about what you share and what you teach and how you support people, how can they find you?
So the most proactive platform, I would say, is LinkedIn. I do have a newsletter that's called Charissma Business Growth, helping personal, business, and career growth strategies with your growth journey. I think those newsletter articles will be highly useful to you. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, or you can follow my newsletter, Charissma Business Growth. And that would be the best way.
Okay, thank you. I will put the links in the bio for this podcast. And I'm so grateful to you, Jeremiah, for sharing with us and taking the time. So it's great that everyone's listening today. Thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to what comes up next. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.